name is Leslye Kellner, and I grew up in a very small rural town called Utopia, Texas, and now live in a city and have seen cities all around the world. I've lived in Singapore, I've lived in Germany, I've lived in other states, and my career has driven most of that. So different opportunities and job roles that came along that I was able to take advantage of. I had at one point said I was interested in international opportunities, and it was an example of one of those things that putting it out there, making folks in your circle aware that is an interest of you, your boss aware. So when an opportunity came up, I was thought of and then able to take advantage of that. So um, have these international experiences, which has really helped shape my view of the world, thinking of my place in the world. And I think that's really important as we start to chart our course on where we want to be, both professionally and personally. So I work for a really large tech company called Salesforce, and we are cloud-based software, really, pushing into this new frontier of the digital headquarters where we have digital platforms and digital working styles. And I am not in the product or sales or customer side of that. I'm actually on a team that focuses on mergers and acquisitions. So this is when Salesforce buys another company. I'm on the integration team that helps figure out how we're going to integrate that company, all of their people, their tools, their processes to be functional inside of Salesforce as one collective business. My career has taken, it's not been a straight line by any stretch, and it's crossed different kind of fields and disciplines. I started off in a marketing career, and that's where I had gone to school. That's what I'd studied, and that's where I was passionate about. I still have passion for that space, but I had gone through a few different roles. I was working for a large company at the time, so I had the opportunity to move around in the company and do different components of marketing. And I always had really good mentors. This is something that I would say, like, seek out people that you can just go get advice from, and make sure you're defining what that mentor relationship is. That, if it's more of you're looking for their wisdom and counsel, like set the mentor relationship up to be that. I created a network. I had people that were advocating for me. I think that's absolutely crucial. And so I was able to take advantage of some like total pivots in my career because one of those mentors or one of those advocates made a connection for me. And I went from doing marketing, I moved overseas doing that. Then I moved into a whole nother space in the marketing world. I was doing more sponsorships and events. And then I pivoted completely into mergers and acquisitions. And that was more an operational type role. Then I got into IT. And it's what I would tell anyone is, like, I like to say that the curves in your career are where you actually come across those new experiences and new perspectives. And as a woman, I like my curves, and I think we all need to stop looking for the straight line career, because in most roles that's not out there, and that actually, I think, may have you miss out on some experiences. And so I definitely think that the path was right for me. I will say, I know I've done all of the personality tests. I know that I have a high degree of acceptance for change. That's why I like M&A. It's constantly changing. So changing managers, packing up and moving overseas, changing jobs, that for me energizes me and it is part of me. I know that that's not for everyone. So find kind of what is your thing and lean into that. I had put it out there that I was open to new things or to change. And I feel like opportunities were then more easily found in my direction. There's always things that feel like setbacks, and I think you have to then evaluate, like, what's really behind it and what the setback actually means to you. And what I mean by that is, so I've had times in my career where I have felt like I was ready to take on either a larger project or move into that next level at the company and take on more scope from a leadership perspective. And sometimes that takes longer than we want it to. And so to kind of fill that gap, I started seeking just other vertical and horizontal experiences. Just wanted to go round out my visibility into other parts of the company or other parts of the business, or places I hadn't worked in before. For me, that's how I kept from feeling like I was stifled vertically. I started growing horizontally. And so I had to get over that initial, what felt like was a setback. One year I had 7 managers at a company. There was a lot of turnover. I was in kind of a newer team, and that brought with it what I would have considered a little bit of slowdown of my own growth. It's really hard to get consistent feedback and evaluation from 7 different people. And so I really had to find a way to like utilize that into what was going to be my step forward. And I started grabbing on to signing up for things that were a little bit outside of the realm of what I was currently working on, and just kind of trying to create some momentum. In various ways, I think we've all had some form or factor that has impacted us either directly or even in the way that we are thinking about something. And I would say that there's been times in my career where I felt like my male colleagues were getting promoted earlier than I was, even though I might have more actual scope than they did. And so that's a frustrating moment. And so you kind of have to just dig in and find the right way to continue to brand yourself, which was the approach I took to continue to push forward and show the value that I'm bringing to the organization. I think there's other times in my career, I've been in the business 20 plus years, and there's been times where, I was made to feel like I needed to question what I was wearing to a meeting, how I was sitting in a meeting, all of the more subtle cues that we give. And that really is a distraction to me sometimes. And I can remember that point in my career, I'm going in for this big presentation and I'm thinking more about, should I have worn pants or a skirt versus what I'm about to deliver in my message. And that was something that was just a little bit of an eye-opening moment. Certainly we've come a long way, and that's been on the thanks to lots of women making lots of moves in a lot of different industries and spaces. I think that, for me personally, I have nieces, and I talk about this stuff with them all of the time. They're in high school now, and I share experiences of things that, we probably experienced and maybe at the time didn't know if they were good or bad or other, but are not things that would be experienced anymore, right? They're taboo, and they should be. And I talked to them about, this is a very kind of opportunistic time where there's this forefront of, equality. It's the right time to really dig in and make systemic change. I think the risk that we all run in our world that's full of hypersensitivity is, with most causes, you'll see a swing of a pendulum, right? And it has to swing the entire other direction before it gravitates back to the middle. And I think that's where I try to have some awareness of what, fight the battle, keep pushing forward, stand for, stand up for yourself, stand up for other women, support other women. That's my biggest one. Be a champion of women, and be mindful of the sensitivities that are like the newer sensitivities, which are almost a reverse of the old ones. Like, very skepticism for the people around you of, have they said something wrong? And so I find myself now, and it's interesting to see this new corporate world of like the language and the interactions and how that's happening. It's absolutely the people. I think you have to love where you work as much as what you're working on, right? And so one, Right now I have a fabulous team that I like to work with, but the thing about my job that I'm in, so as I mentioned, I'm in mergers and acquisitions, and that means we Salesforce acquires a lot of different companies for various reasons. And so every time we acquire one of these companies, they've got their own company culture. They come with a leadership and organizational structure. And so I get to learn about them as a company and their culture and their role in that at the same time that we're sort of bringing them into our own culture. And so it's different. It's different types of companies, different locations of companies. And so for me, it's sort of, getting to look at something net new frequently and then applying sort of kind of our approach and framework to it. But I mean, my mom is an entrepreneur at heart. And so I always saw this strong female lead building her own businesses and taking those risks and those chances. My sister is a physical therapist and manages a clinic, and she has 3 kids in high school. And so I think she balances all of that like a boss, and it just impresses me every day. I have a group of besties that have been breaking glass ceilings for a while now and are in very senior roles at very big companies. We talk almost daily about life and work and kids and family and all of the things. And you've got to surround yourself with people that make and help you be better. And then, of course, there's the broader ones like Ebony Beckwith is our Chief Philanthropy Officer at Salesforce. And Trisha Dempsey was a mentor and coach I had that was helped me in pivotal moments. And still, RBG, Taylor Swift, Michelle Obama, like people that are really, I admire women who support women. I think I said this earlier. Be a champion of women and advocate for equality and stand up for themselves. I think we should look for those living examples and the people who have come before us. So I talk to my team about this one fairly often. I was really stressed in a role at one point, and I was frustrated because I felt like I was picking up extra stuff and making sure it was getting done. And I know we've all had those times, whether it's a college project all the way up into our careers. And I was working with an ad agency, and one of the ladies there, the senior on the account, we had just gotten close and we were talking one day, and she said, "I'm going to give you some mentor advice." And she said, "Sometimes you have to let things fail." And that is really hard for me personally, and that is really hard for most of the women I know. We are constantly the plate jugglers, right? We're trying to keep everything spinning. We don't want anything to fall and break. And by default, we just get more plates. And so sometimes letting something fail or letting something not get done on time is a way of shining a spotlight on a gap that needs to be addressed more holistically in the team and the organization or something else. And it's, kudos to swooping in and always picking it up before it breaks. But so I hear her in my head frequently, like sometimes you got to let things fail, and try to use that very surgically, but it's absolutely true. I was looking at Facebook yesterday. There was a lot of stuff about, empowerment and Women's Day. And I had been at a luncheon 3 years ago in, or maybe it was 2018 in Atlanta, Georgia, and go to this luncheon with a client. And one of the speakers is Stacey Abrams, who I think is amazing. And she gives this speech. Of course, she then later announces her candidacy for running for governor for Georgia. But she gives this speech about show up, stand up, speak up. And I think that those are the fundamentals to empowering women. And I think it starts with showing up. Like, we have to be there and be present and be available to help support people, in whatever way that is. If that is volunteering with Junior Achievement, if that is giving funding to a project or supporting STEM, if that is, showing up with your kids, your neighborhood, and just being there as a representative and a role model, I think is where it all begins. And I always had women in my life who were doing their thing, right? They were succeeding, and I was, in all of them, and I wanted to be them. And so us being those role models in the real life is also, I think, really important to kids these days. Standing up for them and being willing to speak up when we see injustice and encouraging them to do so. Getting that instilled of them of like, this is not acceptable, or this is not gonna stop my dreams. That's the message we want them to hear. They need to see, they learn from what they see, right? So I think it's as much about empowering them and letting, helping them be them. But an easy way of doing that is just showing what good looks like. And so that's what I try to like be that person and be present anytime I'm in those situations and have that opportunity. I would tell them that the world is in front of them, and look at it with open eyes and don't come into it with any I can't. I know break the bias is the theme this year, and I think, I fully support that. I think all of these taglines, like topics, terms like feminism, it can mean things or not mean things. At the end of the day, it means equality. It means we are here to say that you have equal opportunity to go achieve your dreams and go after it. Like at this point, plunge forward and take a few setbacks and find those curves and get back on your path. But, get on the journey. Let's not be afraid. Like, I just think it's all time to just keep stepping forward, step into the light, and just kind of tackle what's in front of you with the mindset that there is no a woman should do it this way or a man would do it this way. It's just like, I'm doing it this way. And I think it's when we have these International Women's Days, for me, it's mostly about just taking a moment to say, like, there's been a lot of people that did some hard work to help pave the way for me. We're still paving the way, but the road is long, and there's a lot of opportunity along the way. I think that we've got a lot in front of us. I'd say open. As I've said throughout some of the questions today, being open to new things, being open to considering new things. It doesn't mean that you actually have to say yes. Being open to considering them. Being open-minded about something that's maybe a new perspective from what you might have learned growing up. I talked about my journey of living in different places and different people that I've met and different cultures that I've experienced. And open to me is also about honest and transparent conversation. And I try to bring that into my work with my team, and I encourage them to do the same. And I try to be open and honest with everyone in my life. So I'm going to go with open today.